Everyone. Here I am. It's in East Aurora, April 8th, and we are excited to do our first mini sewing club with Diane. So, we have some exciting things. She's going to teach you and educate you on some items that I think a lot of people are asking for and wanting to know some tips and tricks about some headbands, maybe some scrub hats. Can't wait to see what she has to teach us because we always learn from Diane because she has a lot of knowledge and she's an amazing teacher. And we're happy that she could join us at this difficult time. So I'm going to ask everybody to give me a hi, hello, how are you? I hope everyone's staying healthy and safe. I do have the ringers off, so please just wait until we're done with this. Don't call, I won't answer. We're just trying to have a quiet atmosphere and teach you guys everything that we can teach you. And we are our distance apart, me and Diane. We're not on top of each other, so we're doing our social distancing. And I will not be doing my virtual shopping today, and maybe tomorrow. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. You'll always have to wait and see. It's my 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning idea that comes up in my head just because I don't like to sleep anymore. All right, I'm going to turn the camera over to Diane. Thank you, everybody who's joining us, and let's see what she has to teach us.
All set?
Yeah.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's just a weird way to be with you, but it's weird times right now. So we're going to try and make this like a little class and pretend everybody's here and everybody came in and got their hugs this morning. And we can do that as soon as this craziness is over. So what we're going to talk about today are the caps that Carol showed you a couple weeks ago or last week or whenever it was. I have made the caps, and the headbands. They are wonderful in themselves, but they also have the ability to put buttons on the side so that you're able to join your mask to the buttons instead of putting them behind your ears and everybody's getting sore ears from wearing their masks. So we're going to go over that, and then we have a new pattern that we're going to go over, and that is for the reversible scrub cap. And there's been a lot of questions about getting a cap right now because that's the second thing other than the mask that the people in the hospitals are asking for. So we're going to show you how to do that, and that will be our class for today. So we're going to start with the headbands. It's from an Indigo Junction pattern. The headbands are, the first one is a pleated headband that has elastic in the back, and we do have the 3/4 inch elastic that you're able to use for this. And it opens up so you can make it really any size you want, from very narrow to a little bit extra wide. And we did that one in a fun fabric for spring. The second one is a full elastic band, and this one takes 3/8 inch elastic, which we do not have right now. However, you could substitute the 3/4 inch elastic for this one. It would just be a little wider in there, but it would still work out. You just have to adjust your casing size a little bit to get that in. And then the third one is kind of a two-tone headband. You could do it all in one fabric if you wanted to, but it was kind of more fun doing it in two. And this also takes the wider elastic in the back, so you would be able to make this one also. The patterns run very true to what they're supposed to. There were a few changes that needed to be made. The first one that I did, the first changes, this is VA, which was the pleated headband. And they do give you templates, but rather than using the templates to cut out, I measured them and made them a size that was easier to cut with a rotary cutter and a ruler. So you can measure them too, or you can text me later and I can give you measurements. Mostly all my students have my text number, but if you don't, I will give it to you at the end so that you can get in touch with me. And then if there's any questions about any of the things that I showed today, you can text me and I can try and answer you. So this one was 15 by 9.5, and the casing was 15 by 2.25. What I found in making these 3 bands was that the casing they give you is not large enough to get the elastic in comfortably. So where this pattern says it was 2.25, the casing really needs to be 2 3/4. You're going to increase it by 1/2 inch. And that gives you room inside the casing for your seam allowance, plus it gives you room to get your elastic through. The first one that I did, I had to take completely apart because I couldn't get the elastic in the casing. So increase it by 1/2 inch.
Nope.
Are we
I don't know.
back?
I think so. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. All right.
Be under control.
Okay, I think we're
Okay.
still on. I think so. Yep. Go ahead. Let's.
Okay, we're still holding it.
Are we all? Is everybody? Is it still on? Somebody just give me a hi or a thumbs up, just so I know. Or did I? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we got
Yep,
it.
we're good.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay.
guys.
Okay, so on this first one, again, what I did was I cut the casing 2 3/4 rather than 2 1/4. That leaves you room to get the elastic in. Plus it gives you room because when you're finished, you take the head part or the band part that you actually did and you slip the ends into the open casing with the elastic. You sew the elastic to the end and slip it inside, and that gives you the perfect distance to get that inside. Okay, so other than that, that was the one change that I made to that pattern. Okay, the second one, which is this one that has the elastic, they call for you to use 3/8 inch elastic and make your casing, your sewing for your casing in here 1/2 inch. And again, that was not enough. I worked with this for over an hour to try and get it to work, and it didn't work, so I ended up taking this one apart so I could get the elastic in. If you're going to use the wider elastic, make sure it's about 1/4 inch more than your elastic, because that gives you room for your seam allowance on the inside, plus getting your elastic in there to get it done. But this one was very simple. It's reversible. You can make it again all with one fabric, but if you make it reversible, you end up with 2 instead of 1. And the cute thing about this one is in the back, the way that they make it, it leaves room for, if you have long hair and your hair is in a ponytail, you can put your ponytail through the space between the elastics. So, and if you want it a little wider, feel free to make your band a little wider. That's okay too. But again, that was a very simple one to make. The third one, which is really funny because I thought in the pattern it was the one that I liked the least, and I ended up liking it the best. This one is also made with 2 different fabrics. You could make it all with one fabric if you wanted to. But again, it was the difference in the casing on this one with the elastic in the back. Okay, this one is done with this piece, which is the casing, and they tell you to cut the casing 3. I ended up cutting it 3 1/2. Again, that's 1/2 inch larger than what they tell you to cut. The other part that you have to cut out of the 2 fabrics is this piece, and this piece you do have to use the template because but you can still put your ruler and rotary cutter down and cut it that way, but you do have to lay the template down. This was fine, the size that it was. It's the casing that needed to be 1/2 inch bigger. Okay, The other thing you wanted to pay attention to on here, they do draw a line, but they really don't tell you what the line is for. The line is your grain line. I redid it on this one right here. I just drew an arrow on this one to show you that this is what it is. They just do the line. So that line is their grain line. So you're used to seeing it with an arrow point on it. It doesn't have an arrow point, so you just have to make do with the line. Okay. So we have this, and the other thing I did on this one, which was a little bit easier than what they said, was to get the end of the band itself into the casing for the elastic. They had you sew 2 lines of stitching, gather them up so that you were pleating them and put them in. I never have a lot of luck in taking my threads and gathering them up. So what I did was I made one little pleat in the center and stitched over it and stuck it inside. And then I double stitched around the outside to hold it to make sure it wasn't going to go anywhere. So those are the 3 headbands, and again, you can actually add your buttons to any one of these to put it on, put your buttons on, and then if you have the masks that go around the ears, you can put them around the buttons instead of around your ears, and it will save on your ears. I know everybody that's wearing the mask with the elastic around the ears is complaining that it's very difficult to keep your ears from getting sore. So that is the last headband. So we have the 3 headbands. Again, it's an indigo junction pattern. There's pictures in front, there's pictures in the back, there's nice illustrations all the way through. The only real difference was pleating the 3rd one, the C headband, this one, instead of gathering it up, and then for the 3 of them making your casings a little bit wider. The other thing I thought too was that if you wanted to, with the first one, they do not, this is a single layer of fabric, you could make this double. You could put a lining on this, just make 2 of them and sew them together if you wanted it to be a little bit heavier than this one, also to make it a little bit reversible. Okay, if there's any questions, again, I'm going to give you my text number and you can text me any questions that you have. I really would appreciate when you text me if you would tell me who you are. People text me all the time and it's like I have no idea who I'm talking to.
We had a question.
Okay.
Are you going to put these notes in the pattern for the headbands?
I have not, because it's not my pattern. It's an indigo junction pattern.
But you're more than happy to help through text message or...
Anytime. I would tell you that you could email me. I can give you the email too. That's perfectly okay. Either one, and just get in touch with me if you have any questions at all. It's like you were in class. If you have questions, come and ask me, because that's what I'm here for. Okay, so no other questions right now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
We don't have any 1/4 inch elastic. We're out at this time. We are waiting for a shipment. We were told by the end of the month. So that's like 2 or 3 weeks from now. We do right now have 3/4 inch elastic. I have probably about 15 yards total. So, I mean, we're running low on elastic. So bear with us. We're trying. We're on a waiting list like everybody else. But we're hoping soon. All right, perfect.
Okay. The other thing that I want to talk about when we're doing the reversible scrub cap is we just had a call before we went live, and somebody looking for elastic again did not have the elastic, so they wanted to know if we had the bias tape, because people are using bias tape now to make the masks, and nobody seems to have any bias tape either. The thing is that you don't need bias tape. First of all, you don't need a cut on the bias because it's not going around a curve. And the second thing is that it's simple to make and probably easier to use than the pre-made bias tape. So we're going to go through that. I am not going to construct a whole scrub mask or scrub cap. We did 2 of them already. First of all, I did one and forgot to take pictures as I was constructing it. So went in yesterday and made a second one so that we would have pictures that go with all the instructions in the pattern. But I do have pieces cut out, so we're going to go through the process and I'm going to show you some of the little tricks to doing it without constructing the whole mask. Because again, I know that we're all starved for a company right now, but nobody wants to sit and watch you sew for a half hour without doing anything. So I'm going to go through that whole pattern. So first of all, this is a pattern. It's a So Much More pattern. And when you open it up, if you can open it up, okay, it has a lot of pictures inside, and it has templates, and the templates are for the band and for the top of the cap. Okay, top of the cap and the band. I have included actually 2 sizes for the band. This is the original size that I did, and it fits men just fine, most of them, unless they have a big head. But I found that trying to put it on women with a lot more hair, it kind of didn't go down far enough. So what I did was I increased the band so that you have the regular band is in the template on top, and you have the little bit longer or wider band under here. It's an inch wider. Okay. So what you're going to do when you get your templates is, the first thing I did was trace them off onto patternies. Okay, because to me it's a lot easier to work with patternies on a piece of fabric than trying to lay cardboard on a fabric and cut out around it. But you're more than welcome to, if you don't have the patternies, to use the paper templates too. So what you're going to do is you're going to have 2 pieces of fabric. Okay, on here I did the sabers on one side and a dark blue on the other side. It is reversible. If you don't care if it's reversible, you can do it all out of one fabric. But if you are using 2 fabrics, and in this case I'm using a blue and I'm using one with some pretty colorful sunglasses on it, you're going to cut a top piece out of both fabrics. Okay, one of the colored and one of the blue. Okay, then you're going to cut your band. And the band is cut, if you look here, there's a fold line. So the band is actually half the band, and you're going to lay it down with this part on the fold and cut out your band. Again, you're going to cut one of the colored fabric, and you're going to cut one of the blue fabric. Okay, then the last thing that you need are the ties. And the ties and the binding are the same piece of fabric. And this is where you can make your own ties for your masks or any substitute for the bias binding that you're looking for now that you can't get. So, and this is the piece, what it looks like when it's all folded and into position. What you're going to do for the ties is you're going to start out with a 2-inch piece of fabric. 2 inches by the width of the fabric, so that it looks like that. You're going to take your piece of fabric and you're going to fold it in half and press it. So now it's 1 inch by the width of the fabric. Then you're going to open out the fold again, and you're going to fold in the raw edges to the center and press it. And then when you're finished, you're going to press it again on the original fold so that you have a strip that is now a 1/2 inch by the width of your fabric. There's a little trick when you're pressing. Unless you have thermal fingers, those are the little coverings for your fingers so they don't get steamed when you're using the steam iron. What I do when I make the first pressing is I do this with the steam iron. After I open it up and have to press these edges in, I turn my iron to the dry setting so I'm not steaming my fingers. And then when you fold it the last time, you can steam it again. So it stays nice and neat and you got nice crisp folds in there. Okay, so now that we have that prepped and we have our pieces, the way that we're going to construct this is you're going to take, and on the pattern, you will see a center line at the top and bottom. You're going to mark that top and bottom. And you're going to take your band, and if you look at it, it has a curved edge and it has a straighter edge. Okay, we're going to work on joining the curved edge to the curved top, if you remember it that way, curve to curve. This one has a fold in the center because I folded it when I had to cut it on the fold. So there's the center of my band, and I'm going to take the center of the band and I'm going to line it up with the mark at the center top of the piece. Okay, now you'll notice on the blue it doesn't make any difference which is up and which is down when I cut. When you're working with a directional fabric, okay, on the pattern, on the grain lines on the pattern, I have an arrow, and that arrow gets pointed toward the top of your fabric so that it's upright this way. Okay, so it's not upside down. The same thing with the band. When you cut out the band, on the grain line on the band, there's a little arrow, and you can make that arrow so that your directional fabric is upright. Okay. So, we're going to take and we're going to put a pin in the top. And then we have to match this edge to the side. What I do is I'll start at the top and I'll put a couple pins in up here, curving it around slightly. And then go down to the bottom, and then I work up from the bottom so that the bottom matches the bottom of the top piece of the hat. And then work upward. And the nice thing about it is that it fits in very nicely. And don't be afraid to use a few pins for this step. Okay, so I get to the real curve part, and then if you just keep the top or the band part, the fabric that's on top, a little bit taut, it eases right in to your other piece of fabric, and you can pin that, and then it all fits together nicely. Okay, you're going to do the same thing on the other side, easing that in, and then you're going to use a 1/4 inch seam and you're going to stitch all the way around. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing with your other piece of fabric. So you'll end up with, when you get that stitched, like 2 little partial caps. Okay, once you have that done, you want to press your seam. And to keep the bulk out of the top of your head, we're going to press the seam toward the band. Okay, and you'll notice that I have my little handy who's still sitting here.
They're asking about the owl.
Okay, everybody asks about the owl.
So that's why I'm giggling back here. Beth Oliver, I love the owl pin and clip holder, and then Kathy Myers, love the pin cushion. What pattern?
It's everything, and it has little pockets in the front that hold your tools. It has a place in the nose that you can put a scissors that makes his glasses, and it has a little pocket in the back. Okay, when we first made this, the wings didn't do anything. Okay, but since then we have wonder clips, and the wonder clips just stay right on his wings. Okay, and those are always handy also. But making this pattern also found another use for him. Okay, because when you press on the curve, if anybody attended one of the classes that we did on the clothing this past year, they had a pressing ham, and that allows you to press things on the curve. Now, not everybody has a pressing ham, very few people do, but I found that if I turned my handy who over and went to press, he makes a beautiful pressing ham. So this class, as soon as we're done with the craziness, and as soon as we're coming back, this class will be in the schedule for both stores. So everybody can make their own little guy again, okay? Okay, so now we have these two little hats pressed. Okay, let me just put a pin on the other side so you can see what we're going to do now. Over here. Okay, you're going to open out the bottom edge that we haven't done any stitching on. Okay, and you're going to place the two hats right sides together, and you're going to stitch this bottom edge. Okay, again, that's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, and you're going to take and you're going to press the seam open. Again, you're on a curve, so you can use the bottom of your handy hoo if you have one already. If not, we'll have one for you soon, and hopefully sooner than later. Okay, so you're going to press this bottom seam. Okay, then you're going to take your two cap pieces and you're going to turn them so that they are wrong sides together. So you have something now that's kind of starting to look like a cap, except for it has a raw edge on the bottom. Okay, so now this is a finished edge down here. You got your cap pieces. Now we have to finish it by putting our binding to cover the raw edge and making our ties. So the way that we're going to do this is you're going to take, and pretend with me here, okay, you're going to find the center of this bottom band on your cap, and you're going to find the center of your binding piece. Okay, leave the selvages on for now. They come in handy at the end. Okay, don't cut them off yet. Okay, now you're going to take your band and you're going to open it up so that it's 1 inch again, and you're going to open out one side. Okay, so that it looks like this. This side is still folded over, this is opened up, and you have a crease right here at the 1/2 inch line. So you're going to take this and you're going to place it on your cap. Okay, and we're going to start pinning. Okay, or if you have clips, you can clip, which makes it a little faster and easier and not so apt to stick yourself, which I do all the time. Okay, so we're going to put this on, like so, until we get to the end of the cap. Okay, so then I've got this left over, and it's on the cap like this. Now, when I do it, it doesn't really matter because it's going to end up the same on both sides, but you can attach it to the inside or you can attach it to the outside. It really doesn't matter. It's going to be exactly the same. Okay, and you're going to stitch, and you're going to stitch right in this crease. Okay, you've got a crease right there. You're just going to stitch right in that crease. And you're going to start at the bottom edge of the cap, and you're going to stitch all the way around until you get to the bottom edge on the other side. Okay, now once you have that stitched in place, and we're going to put a couple pins in just to pretend we stitched it. Okay, you're going to fold it over, And now your middle crease, you're going to fold it on the crease that you just stitched. The middle crease is going to end up on the edge, on the raw edge of your cap, and you're going to fold the other 1/2 inch to the other side. So now we have a piece of binding in place, which looks a lot like the pre-made bias binding. And now you're going to start at the end of your strip. Okay, that's just hanging out here in nowhere land. And you're going to start and you're going to stitch about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch down the edge. You're going to continue onto the hat, all the way around the hat. And then when you get to the end of the hat down here, continue on the rest of the strip, all the way to the other selvage edge. Okay, so you've got your ties and you've got your binding all in one. Now I used a straight stitch, but if you like using a serpentine stitch, use your serpentine stitch. If you want to play with one of your beautiful decorative stitches, use a decorative stitch. It'll be a good time to play with some of those. They all work. So whatever one you want to do, you can make a contrasting stitching so that it shows, or you can match your stitching.
You could do this on the masks too?
You could do this on the mask too, for people that can't get the bias for their masks. Okay, you just attach it to the edge, and where it's hitting the edge of the mask, you're going to sew it down. Where it's left, you're going to stitch out on just on the piece of fabric with nothing underneath it.
Great.
Okay.
Multi-uses here, guys.
Yeah. Now the last thing is that you want to finish off the end of your strip. Okay. You don't want to leave the selvage on. Okay. I don't like, because it's folded over and over and over, I don't like to fold this under, and then because then it gets very bulky at the end. Some people like to tie a little knot in the end. I don't like that either. But what I found is I will use a zigzag stitch. Okay, so you want to set your zigzag stitch at a width of about 4 and a length of about 0.3. Okay, so it's like for people that do a satin stitch for applique, it's a satin stitch. Okay, some of your machines have the satin stitch built in, just make it wider than what the built-in, the default setting is. And so that my stitching doesn't come out, what I'll do is I'll start in the center and I will do a straight stitch out to the edge. When I get to the edge, I switch to a zigzag stitch and do my satin stitch until I get to the second edge, then switch back to the straight stitch and back stitch down the middle again. And that way your threads are anchored, they're not coming out, and you're not having to go over that satin stitch twice, which would make that bulky too. Then once you have your satin stitch in place, then you can take your rotary cutter or your scissors, cut off the selvage. That gives you something to hang on to when you're doing your sewing. And then you can just get rid of the selvage. And I know you can't see it, but it looks like that when it's finished. Can you get up? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's the same color as...
Yeah, it's hard to see.
It's hard to see. But take my word for it, it's there. And it works. Okay?
I can take pictures if you guys want and put it in the comments to see if you could see it that way. We can try. But I'm taking Diane's word for it.
Okay. They haven't lied to you yet.
Nope.
Never.
I'll be honest, I learned a lot just now.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions coming in?
Not yet. One was answered.
Okay.
Of how much fabric for the cap.
Okay. For the cap, what we have to do is this. Okay. You need at least, this is a little bit over 1/4 yard. Okay. And it's not quite, it's like 12, like not quite 11 inches. So you would need 1/3 yard, okay, for this to go, because this, whoops, where's the one with the arrow on it? Okay, because this has to go on the grain of the fabric, so it has to go so that it is parallel to the selvage. Okay, and that's the way most of your fabrics are that have a direction on them anyway. There's your selvage, okay, and it has to go this way on your fabric. So you need a good 11 inches, okay? So, and then you can get your band out of the rest of it. You can cut this and then fold it, fold your piece of fabric and get your band on the fold, okay? For the piece, that would have been, so on the finished cap here, that would have been the Sabres fabric. It would have been the top and the band. The dark blue, you're going to need that much. You're going to need that 11 inches, plus you need 2 inches for the binding and ties. So that brings it up to 13. So that would be 3/8 of a yard. Okay, so the first one is the one that doesn't have the band included, is 1/3 of the yard. The one that you're including the band fabric is 3/8 of a yard. And it's on the pattern.
Okay. One question was the measurements for the cap pattern.
Oh, the measurements. Well, it is from the front to the back is exactly 10 inches. The band at the widest part in the front is 3 inches, so the wider band would be 4 inches because it's an inch wider. Okay, so on here, this ends up being 3 inches, and this ends up being 4 inches. Okay, and 10 inches from the crown here forward. That's 10. And the widest part of the cap measures 7. Okay, so 7 by 10 by 3 or 4.
Question, would a fat quarter work?
No, we tried.
We did try.
I did try, thinking that a fat quarter would work. But what happens with a fat quarter is, even if you take your top and you put it here, okay, even if I have this, it's supposed to be 22 inches, which this is, okay, but it has selvage on it.
So you're losing.
So you're losing, depending upon your, if you're using a batik, you could get it out of a fat quarter, because this, the band from the fold to the end part is actually, it's like 11, so no, not really, because this one is, at the widest part up here is 11.5 inches, so if that would have to be 23 inches. So unless you got, some fat quarters are more than 22 inches, so if you have 23 inches in your fat quarter, you could use a fat quarter.
Oh, Julie, of course we have the Sabres fabric in the store.
Yes.
And we also have Bill's fabric.
Yes.
If you're wanting to support our Buffalonian-ness.
And actually, out of the Sabres fabric, if you had your 3/8 of a yard, you should probably be able to get 2 of it out there. Okay? Because you can get your 2 up here, and depending upon your band, you might be able to get, or get a 1/2 a yard, and then you definitely can get 2 of it out there.
All right, any other questions? Diane's here. I know we all miss her, so
I miss you guys.
throw them out there. I just don't want to say goodbye until you guys get all your questions.
I was going to give them my...
Perfect.
Okay, my telephone number is 440-5245. You're better off texting me unless it's a really complicated question, then you can call, but I don't always have my phone on me. We're actually trying to paint right now, so so text message would be the best. My email is DIMONDPIECES@AOL, and you can email me.
The question, where the button placement on the headband is, do you have a button placement?
Not really, it just depends upon where you wear your headband. Okay, some people wear them farther forward, some back farther. I would suggest just put the headband on and see where your mask goes to. Okay, again, all the elastics I've seen are different size elastics. You know, they say cut them 7 inches, they say cut them 10 inches, whatever. So just determine what you need for your particular purpose and place your buttons.
All right, I think that's it. I will have Diane back. I will convince her to do another one. How's that? So I will, I'm gonna say goodbye on my end. I'll keep answering questions through Facebook, or you can call the store. I am turning the answer machine off, so you can call again. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Facebook Live will be early in the morning. We have a little surprise early in the morning, 8:30. I will post that today in our notes, so you know, 8:30 tomorrow morning. That's my normal hour of getting up. So we will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining our little mini sewing club. And I hope everyone's staying safe and indoors. And we will see you on Facebook Live tomorrow morning, 8:30. See you later, guys. Bye.